Hello, and welcome back to A Nurse Love 101. Hi, friends. Today's topic is going to be about nurses leaving the bedside and leaving at rapid rates. Rapid rates, they say. Rapid rates. And I'm going to kind of talk about me leaving the bedside as well, and how do you know when it's time to leave. But first, I want to give you guys a little recap of what I've been up to. I know I haven't been posting on this channel, and I actually have content, a lot of cooking content that I am going to post. I've just been really busy with work. Working the 40 hours, being there 5 days a week is definitely extremely challenging for me because I am somebody who likes to create content. So I do have another YouTube channel, and I have my podcast and my TikTok and my Instagram. So I've been working on content for that channel, and I've kind of fallen off of this one. And I apologize because I think that this channel, in all honesty, is probably my most personal channel. When we think about the differences of the channels, this channel, you guys know me more than my other channels where I'm just creating content. So with that, let's get into the discussion, because I am going to post more on this channel, and this is my first start to doing so. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about nursing burnout for multiple reasons. One of the most important reasons is the nurse's mental health, and the area that a lot of these nurses are already feeling burnt out is alarming. So the American Nurse Association posted in a recent article last year that it is believed that a nationwide study found out that 55% of healthcare workers feel burnout. Damn, 55%. And I'll be honest, there is a part of me that still feels a little burnt out and I think it just has to do with work in general and people not being able to have work-life balance. I still work for a medical facility. I still work in the medical industry. I still am working as a nurse. I just left bedside. And I try to compare the areas of what was it that really made me decide to leave. And when I think about leaving bedside, it's a big one because a lot of nurses join nursing because they want to help people. They want to be centered around giving back. And also they want to receive better pay and benefits. And I'll be honest, I'm lucky where my position, I was able to get kind of a pay increase hourly because I went from a staff nurse to a charge nurse. But for most positions and most counties and cities and states, leaving the hospital means usually a pay decrease. It's true. You're probably going to lose some money. And in some ways, I did lose some money because I had to quit my second job that I was as a per diem. You guys see Tank in the background. To devote full time to my new job. So it's believed that nearly 18% of newly licensed registered nurses want to quit the profession within the first year. Damn. Okay. So my first year was tough as a new grad, and I did think about quitting, especially being in a nursing facility. I was working in a nursing facility and I was burnt out and I hated it. I will tell you that nursing burnout as a new grad versus a seasoned nurse is a little bit different because a new grad is learning so much. You really are. Your first year, you're kind of learning so much. You should be excited, but unfortunately, due to staffing in certain circumstances for the facility you work at, you might be feeling very exhausted. I know as a new grad, I felt very exhausted, and I felt, like I was still trying to understand my profession. I was still trying to understand certain things about nursing, and I was still trying to understand it all. When you're a new grad, you don't know. You really don't. I mean, I look back at my first 3 years and I'm like, damn, that was intense, because even though you're a new grad, that doesn't necessarily mean that short staffing isn't going to affect you. It is going to affect you. Even if you have a preceptor, there's going to be times where the hospital might be short staffed, and that's unfortunately the name of the game. And I hear a lot of stories from my friends who either they're new grads or their children are new grads, and they ask me questions like, how did you survive? My daughter's in med surg. She hates it. How did you get into a specialty? Blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to tell you the truth. Me starting as a float nurse as a new grad, I feel like helped me understand which area I want to be in. I honestly think if you are trying to reduce nursing burnout, there's certain things that you can do. Yes, getting in a specialty sometimes feels a little bit better than med-surg tele. But when I was on med-surg tele, I was able to organize my day okay. There were certain days that it was just a shit show no matter what. But in all honesty, I feel like regardless of what the department you're in, you're going to feel burnout. Because I still feel burnout and I work in the clinic, and it's just having to be there every day, multiple patients waiting to get brought back. It's still kind of like the same. The patients aren't sick. They're not dying on us. They're not critical. We're not hanging IV meds, but we still have multiple patients who still have needs, and we have to take care of their needs. So it is a sense of burnout in the fact that as a nurse, you give a lot. You give a lot of your practice, your freedom, your insanity, your nurturing nature to the profession. So I'm not surprised that nurses are getting burnt out, especially in the first year when they are still learning. One of the ways that I would reduce nursing burnout, which I feel like I should have maybe did a little bit different. So since I didn't have any medical experience besides being a nurse, I wasn't a CNA, I wasn't a nursing assistant, I didn't work in the hospital. I basically was a stay-at-home mom who went back to school and got her degree in nursing. So I didn't have any medical experience. I didn't work in any healthcare facility before. I feel like I wish I would have maybe worked in a healthcare facility before I started nursing, just so I could start to build relationships with people. So when I did become a registered nurse, I already had mentors, or maybe I already had people that I could go to and talk to. Unfortunately for me, it wasn't like that. I didn't really have any nursing mentors until probably my job working at the hospital in the emergency room and as a float nurse. Then I began to meet more nurses who had more experience. I began to talk to them. They would mentor me, help me, not only with my nursing skills, but, kind of with just learning the profession overall. Probably around my 4th or 5th year, I met a nurse who was a very seasoned nurse. She was a nurse for probably already like 18, 20 years. She was an emergency room nurse the majority of her time as a nurse, and I was an emergency room nurse. And she had a very motherly instinct about her, and she was somebody that was very easy to talk to. So I automatically was drawn to build a relationship with her as somebody who was still learning and wanted to enhance my profession and make sure that I wasn't losing my sanity. I wasn't losing my mind being in this profession. So one of the tips I do have to say is look to get resources from other nurses who have been there. And talk to people. I know at the time my husband wasn't in the medical business. He wasn't working in the hospital, and he would get so sick of me talking about work. And I had to build relationships with people so I could talk about work, and I could talk about certain situations, and I could talk about certain problems that I was experiencing as a new nurse. The shortage of nurses leaving the bedside is scary, especially for the new nurses, because what's happening is that a lot of new nurses aren't able to build those mentorships with seasoned, experienced nurses because all the seasoned and experienced nurses have left. Some of them may have left for leadership positions. Some of them may have left for education positions. Some of them may have left the bedside to go into management, or maybe they left to go to a clinic like me, or maybe they left to go to something completely non-nursing. It's been happening a lot. So unfortunately, it creates an area where the newer nurses aren't able to make these connections. And I hope that as a new nurse, if you are a new nurse, you should definitely look for areas of building relationships and connections. So how did I know it was time to walk away? This is still something that I kind of debate, because I honestly thought for a very long time I was going to retire an emergency room nurse. That kind of was my goal. But then after being an emergency room nurse for almost 10 years, it just started to become a goal that I wasn't sure I necessarily wanted anymore. And a lot of it did have to do with the pandemic. I didn't like how the nurses were treated. I didn't like how the patients were treated. I knew that it was a pandemic, but there were certain things to me that were just unacceptable regardless of the situation. And I felt very underappreciated. And I often thought, like, why am I burning myself out? Like just for money. And helping people, I understood the helping people part, but there was a few times that I realized that my coping skills weren't very well. So I had to do a mental health check on myself and reduce the burnout that I was feeling. So I basically wrote my dream job, what my dream job would be: weekends off, Monday through Friday, getting off by a certain time. 40 hours would be okay, if it was in a surgery center, if it was in a clinic, if it was in a dermatology center, if it was a case manager. I knew I still wanted to be in nursing. I just didn't necessarily knew if I wanted it to be in a clinic. I honestly think if I didn't get the position that I received, I would still be in the emergency room, or maybe trying to get in an ICU or PACU position. And one of the reasons why is because I was never like, it's my goal to be a charge nurse. At the time, I never thought that was my goal. I never really thought that was my next step. But it was something that I was looking at. So I was thinking, well, maybe I could be a charge nurse if I, was dedicated to a Pacific unit. I even thought maybe I could be a charge nurse in the emergency room. And I actually applied to a position, but I did not get it. And I think in some ways that was a good thing for me, because I look back at, did I even really want it? And I don't think I did. I think I just applied to it because the managers asked me to apply, and in all honesty, everybody was kind of applying. And I don't even really remember feeling upset that I didn't get it, which you would think you would if you really wanted something, right? But I didn't. I was just like, eh. And then when I applied to the clinic job, it took them a long time for them to get back to me. And I was kind of like feeling a little bit upset, like, oh man, this job would have been so great for me. I must not have got it. And then when I finally got offered the position, I was extremely happy. And I literally told them yes. But there is a part of me that says, well, maybe I should have waited like 5 years before I would have gone into the clinic. But those jobs are very hard to find, as we can see, especially with the nurses leaving so much. Another thing that I feel that a lot of nurses are leaving due to is sometimes the bullying. That's what this recent article by the American Nurses Association said, that why a lot of nurses leave the profession has to do with the burnout and also nurses being bullied. Wow. Okay. I don't think I am a bully. I do have a very direct nature about myself, but I wouldn't consider myself a bully. I've treated everybody equally, and I don't necessarily like to create cliques or be in a clique. And there's people I do not like because I feel like they bully other people. So it is something you do see in nursing. And if you feel like you're being bullied in nursing, I recommend speaking up to HR and keeping a paper trail, because it's not right. And nobody should be bullied in their profession. It's a form of harassment. And some of the relationships that we have with our coworkers should be some of the strongest relationships that we have. Just because we go to work every day on a purpose of keeping the nursing profession at a good standard, and also for the care of our patients, not to form relationships with friends. So that's another reason why people are saying that nurses are leaving, is because of bullying. And then also the chance of maybe getting offered a better position or a better hospital. For instance, if your hospital is quote unquote like a low paying hospital, and then you move to a different hospital that has a better pay, you're most likely to leave that hospital, which is, they would say, creates a vacancy for them, even if you are still going to a different hospital or a different place. Also, the nursing ratio is a big one. So in California, our ratio is basically, I believe, if you are on med-surg, you could have up to 5 patients. So it's 1-5. Tele, 1-4. A med-surg tele mix would be 1-4. ICU is usually 1-2. Unless the patient is critical, then it should be 1-1. Where, ICU, they're all critical, but like if the patient's crashing or there's something that you have to do consistently where you couldn't monitor the second patient, your ratio should be 1-1. Pediatrics is 1-4. And I believe NICU, again, is like, depending on the baby, either 1-1 to 1-4, or no, 4-3, I think. Maybe it's 3. I would hope it's 3. I did work NICU once, and I would say that they gave me a bunch of growers and feeders because I was a float nurse. So they weren't that critical. And I do remember having like 3 babies at a time. Postpartum to me is a hard department because you could have one mom who has 2 kids, 2 babies, but most of the ratio is 1-4, and that includes the infant as well. So technically, to me, that's 8 patients, but you know, also, depending on what state you're in, this could change, right? So the hospital survey says that 84% of emergency room nurses and 96% of ICU nurses reported a 4-to-1 ratio, which is crazy when I think of ICU, especially. Emergency room, depending on if the patients or if they're all critical, then it should be like 1-to-2. Oh, that's insane. Or 2-to-1, whatever you want to call it. So definitely the nursing shortage is basically making the ratios a little bit harder. I mean, in California, we do have legislation that protects our ratios. Even in the pandemic, I'll be honest, during the pandemic, yes, it was chaotic. Yes, it was crazy, especially if we were in the COVID tent and all the patients were together. We did get some very sick patients sometimes offloaded in the tents. But for the most part, our ratios here in California in the emergency room were at least 4-to-1. And then if you had a critical patient, you needed to speak up so your other patients didn't get neglected or forgot about, which it sucks. And I understand why nurses want to leave bedside. I totally get it. There's a lot of liability and there's a lot of pressure. So if you are thinking about leaving bedside, one of the biggest disadvantages, I would say, would be the pay cut. And also the possibility of having to work 8-hour shifts. For me, the 12-hour shifts 100% kept me going for so many years. The 12-hour shifts, getting everything done work-wise in 3 days, but being completely exhausted the following day, to me, I thought it wasn't bad. Showing up to work 5 days a week or 4 days a week sometimes can be extremely tiring and mentally exhausting as well. So just basically see what works for your lifestyle. If you are a nurse who's trying to get into a different type of job, there's all kinds of positions. There's critical care, transport, there's case managers, there's patient coordinators, there is leadership positions. There's all kinds of possibilities if you are thinking about leaving bedside. But definitely, I can understand why, and I definitely think that nursing burnout is 100% real. So it is important to really take time for yourself, clear your mind, do some good practices, get some hobbies, take time to get out in nature, take time to pick up a hobby or maybe work out, just something that keeps you aligned and keeps you motivated and keeps you going where you are enjoying your days off. If that's spending time with family, if that's whatever it is that you feel aligned with doing. For me, in all honesty, it had to do with a lot of creating. One of my hobbies is definitely creating content and also creating meditating. I enjoy meditating. I enjoy yoga. I enjoy working out. I definitely enjoy spending time with my family, going places. So take time to really let that extra energy and burnout kind of leave you, especially if you are feeling burnt out, and find a nursing mentor. So I want to give you guys a little bit life update because I know so many of you guys have been following my weight loss journey and my personable stories. So the life update is like this, because I don't even remember the last time I've posted. It's been like a year. I don't know if it's actually been a year, but it feels like it. So I'm still on my weight loss journey. I'm still trying to, eating as healthy as I can. For my menstrual cycle, I did have a uterine ablation, and it's very hard to tell if it worked. I would say I'm post maybe 3 or 4 months from it. I still have my menstrual cycle, but it's been extremely irregular in the fact that I sometimes am not having it. So I am very premenopausal. Overall with my health, I think the menopause has been making me feel a little bit like, not really so focused on the weight loss because it's been up, down, up, down, up, down. And it's kind of like this vicious cycle of, getting your hopes up for 3 pounds and then next week you gain 4 pounds. It's just a different outlook. I'm trying to rewire my brain where I'm more focused on, eating intuitively and not feeling like pressured and stressed about it, because regardless, it is what it is, right? If I can lose the 20 pounds, yay. If I am having a hard time with it, beating myself up doesn't help as well, right? So it's kind of like this cycle of feeling happy, then feeling sad, feeling happy, then feeling sad, feeling happy, then feeling sad. But that's about it, Overall, I'm still working out pretty consistently, like 4 days a week before work, and then taking the dogs on their walks. Tank needs his walk. And I still enjoy my position working in the clinic. There has been times that I've thought to myself, I miss the action of the emergency room. I miss the action of the patient care. But then there's also times that I'm like, I know for me, it was time for me to leave. So I also know that the position that I got, if I would have passed on it, somebody else would have picked it up. And the position that I got is like that position that you retire out of. So I would be waiting for some other person to retire out of it. And I plan on retiring where I'm at unless I get into management, which is something I've thought about, but I don't know if I am fully ready. I do feel like there's a lot of pressure with management, and it's not, I don't know, in all honesty. Maybe like my last couple of years, my last 5 years, I might devote it to higher leadership, but in all honesty, I don't know. And I do support the union, which most leaders aren't in the union, so well, I just want to thank you guys. Tank's about to start barking, so everybody have an amazing day. Bye.